May 15th, 2021. It was a quiet morning in a residential neighborhood in southwest Dallas, Texas. The sun had barely begun to rise. A woman jogging along a quiet street noticed something lying in the middle of the road. At first, she thought it was a dog, but as she got closer, her stomach dropped. It was the body of a small child. The boy had no shirt, no shoes, and he was lying in a pool of blood. He was just 4 years old. His name was Cash Jernon. What investigators would soon discover shocked even veteran detectives. Because just hours earlier, Cash had been sleeping safely in his bed, next to his twin brother, inside a house, behind closed doors. And yet somehow, someone had walked into that home, stood over the sleeping children, and carried one of them away. This is the story of a crime so disturbing that it left an entire city asking one terrifying question. How does a child disappear from his own bed without anyone waking up? Before we begin, if you enjoy real investigative stories like this, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss another true crime story. Now, let's go back to the beginning. Cash Jernon was born in 2017. He had a twin brother named Carter. The two boys were inseparable. They laughed together, played together, and like many twins, they shared a special bond that few people truly understand. Cash was known for being energetic and playful. Friends described him as a child who loved to run around, laugh loudly, and explore the world. He was only 4 years old, still learning how the world worked, still believing it was a safe place. But in early 2021, Cash and his brother were living in a complicated situation. Their father had temporarily left the boys in the care of a woman named Monica Sherrod, who had previously dated him. CBS News. The boys were staying in her home in southwest Dallas. Inside that house lived several other children as well. It was a busy household, but by all appearances, it was a safe place. At least, that's what everyone believed. No one in that house had any idea that someone nearby had already been watching. May 15th, 2021. Around 5 a.m., most of the house was still asleep. Cash and Carter were sharing a small toddler bed, two brothers sleeping side by side. Outside, the neighborhood was quiet. But then, something terrifying happened. A man entered the house. He quietly walked through the home until he reached the bedroom where the twins were sleeping. Inside the room, a camera was recording, and what it captured would later horrify the entire country. The footage showed a man standing over the bed, watching the children. For several seconds, he simply stared. He slowly lifted the blanket, examining the sleeping boys. Then, he reached down, grabbed Cash, and lifted the little boy from the bed. Cash barely stirred. Still half asleep, he was carried out of the room. His twin brother remained in the bed, still sleeping, still unaware. The entire kidnapping took seconds. No screams, no struggle, no alarm, just silence. And just like that, Cash Jernon was gone. Dallas News. About 2 hours later, a woman was jogging through the neighborhood. She noticed something lying on the street ahead. As she approached, she realized the horrifying truth. A child's body. 4-year-old Cash Jernon had been stabbed to death. His body was found only a few blocks away from the house he had been taken from. Police were called immediately. Officers arrived and quickly secured the area. But detectives immediately realized something disturbing. This wasn't a typical missing child case. The child had already been murdered. Now the investigation turned into a race to answer one critical question. Who took Cash from his bed? Inside the house, detectives discovered the surveillance footage. The camera had recorded everything. The man entering the room, the moment he lifted the child, the moment he walked out, and perhaps the most chilling detail of all, the man returned later, hours after taking Cash. The same man walked back into the bedroom. He walked up to the bed again. This time, he lifted the blanket covering Cash's twin brother. For several seconds, he stood there, looking at the child. Then he left, without taking him. Dallas News. Police later said, God's grace saved the other boy, because that second visit could have ended very differently. Investigators quickly identified the suspect, an 18-year-old man named Darian Brown. He lived in the same neighborhood, only a short distance from the home. Police arrested him the very same day. When detectives searched his residence, they found disturbing evidence. Clothing believed to contain Cash's blood. Investigators believed Brown had taken the child to a nearby walking trail, stabbed him, and then left the body in the street. But the investigation revealed something even more unsettling. Brown had allegedly entered another home months earlier. During that incident, he reportedly tried to take a different child. That earlier warning had gone largely unnoticed. The murder of Cash Jernon devastated the Dallas community. Parents across the city were horrified because the crime shattered one of the most basic assumptions people have about safety. A child sleeping in his own bed, inside a home, should be safe. But this case proved otherwise. Community meetings were held. Neighbors demanded answers. How did someone walk into a house, take a child, and leave without being stopped? And perhaps the most haunting question of all, why? What possible motive could exist for killing a 4-year-old child? Investigators struggled to answer that question because even they couldn't fully explain it. As the legal process began, new complications emerged. Darian Brown's defense team argued that he was mentally ill. At one point, he was even declared incompetent to stand trial. He was sent to a state hospital for psychiatric treatment. Doctors evaluated whether he understood the charges against him and whether he was capable of assisting in his own defense. The case stalled for years while those evaluations continued. For the Jernon family, every delay reopened the wound. But eventually, the court ruled that Brown was now competent to face trial, and the case moved forward. In October 2025, just as the trial was about to begin, something unexpected happened. Darian Brown pleaded guilty to the murder. CBS News. Instead of a full trial, the case ended with a plea deal. Brown admitted responsibility for killing Cash Jernon. He was sentenced to life in prison. The courtroom was filled with grief. Family members spoke about the unimaginable pain of losing a child. Cash's grandmother told the killer she wished him nothing but misery. No sentence, no verdict, could bring Cash back. Cash Jernon was only 4 years old, a little boy with a twin brother, a child who should have had an entire life ahead of him. Instead, his story ended on a quiet street in Dallas, taken from his bed in the middle of the night, a crime that shocked the nation, and a reminder of how fragile safety can be. But for those who loved him, Cash will always be remembered, not for the way he died, but for the little boy he was, full of life, full of laughter, and gone far too soon.